So this BBC is a public service announcement about a couple of really good talks that Venerable has given recently on working with anxiety, and also maybe a little plug for the benefits of loving kindness meditation too. For whatever reason, the last couple months, my anxiety level has been higher than usual, I think. And trying to gain some understanding, I'm looking around to think, not to blame, but to understand what's going on here. And so I'm grateful that the political vitriol has really gone down since February, but COVID, the pandemic, is still raging and causing havoc and suffering in so many lives, and the climate is going crazy on us with unmitigated flooding in China and Europe, and fires, wildfires all around us, British Columbia, here in Washington State, California. So those could contribute to it. On top of some of the external things that we could identify, I could also identify aging, for instance. I'm 62. I feel like I'm starting to run out of time to do the things that I want to do in this life. And in addition to that, I think just living at the Abbey is a constant challenge to the ego. With the schedule, the study program, the discipline of ordained life, and part of that, what comes along with that, is the org chart structure and the jobs that we all have responsibility for here, as well as the numerous rotas that Venerable's been mentioning at various times. And so it's not uncommon that all of one's offering service and rota jobs fall all on one day. Has that happened to you? It happens periodically, doesn't it? And so it recently happened to me. Last Monday, I was leading the 5:30 a.m. meditation and trying to sneak in 2 loads of laundry between the meditation and breakfast, as you do. And then, of course, the stand-up meeting, breakfast dishes, and then the stand-up meeting at 8:15, and then an MVC class at 8:30, while also offering service coordinating. There happened to be a 2:30 review that I was leading on the Lam Rim, and then and that day we had a SOG at 3:45, which also had to put that hat on, and et cetera, et cetera. There was practice that night and offering service. So I'm sure this has happened to all of us. I'm not unique in this situation at all. And given the right conditions, I can handle that. We've all handled that. And given the right conditions, I can go berserk with that kind of situation. So this looming conflagration of things to do last Monday led to a little meltdown, as our friend Brene Brown would say. It was a little pity party. It was an anxiety tsunami. And so I couldn't see beyond my nose, to tell you the truth. It happens from time to time. So the challenge, the opportunity when things pile up like this is to slow down. It seems antithetical when you have so much to do, but to slow down, to breathe, to take each task one by one, mindfully, intentionally, with bodhicitta motivation, hopefully with some joy, and to not take oneself too seriously. Well, I couldn't do that on Monday. Some days I can rise to the occasion. On Monday, no way, couldn't do it. So I've been appreciating a couple of very clear teachings that Venerable has given recently on identifying anxiety and how to work with it. Last month, Venerable Chodron was interviewed by the executive director of the Seattle Anxiety Specialists, people who you'd think would know a lot about anxiety. And this was featured in our Abbey's newsletter, e-news, in July. So if you missed it, have a look. It's a very entertaining and very helpful talk. So Dr. Gahari, the administrative director, begins the interview with a very professional manner, a very somber, serious look on her face, asking Venerable a little about herself. And after a bit of introduction, Venerable launches into how we do creative writing when we're anxious. How we just get going on, especially creating horror stories. Now, I don't consider myself much of a writer. That hasn't been my forte through college and in my professional life. Haven't needed it. I focused on the sciences. But I'm really surprised to find out what an expert writer I am. Have you noticed this about yourself? I can, in the flash of lightning, I can create an amazing scenario of actually not just one story, but several stories all at once. So and these horror stories are about the things that are not happening right now, but, and they're unlikely to happen. We're afraid that what we like will change. We're afraid that what we don't like won't change. It'll be that way forever. And we're oblivious that all this is coming from our minds. So we're creating this mental situation in our mind, and then we're reacting to what we have ourselves created in front of us. So really, I thought I couldn't write in college, but I'm finding that I was wrong. So at the beginning of this interview, Dr. Gahari had a very somber face. Then there was a little smile that came across her face. And then pretty soon she's nodding. And then pretty soon there's a full laugh that she's recognizing that this is what happens to us when we are overcome with anxiety, that we create these horror stories in our mind. So these are Venerable's talks, but I thought to summarize them, one, because I need to summarize these. I need to carry these in my pocket and practice them and familiarize with the main points. So who's the star of our anxiety? Of course, as Venerable has tried to get it through to us, me. Forget about the other 8 billion people on the planet. It's almost 8 billion. Forget about them. We never stop to who could care less about our little problem that seems so huge, but we've never stopped to really step back and look and put our problems into perspective, given the other people on the planet. And we feel so alone, so against the whole world without any resources. So 2 things that Venerable identified to look out for are our expectations. Many of them are unrealistic, so that's one thing to look out for. And the second one is self-centeredness, our old friend. So with expectations, it's hard to recognize how our expectations set us up for anxiety. For example, I expect things that I like shouldn't change. That's a rule of the universe, as Venerable describes. Things shouldn't change if I like them. Or things that I don't like, they'll always be that way. It sure seems that way when push comes to shove, doesn't it? Like they'll never change. They're permanent. They're always going to be there plaguing us. And so then we get anxious because we're carrying out these scenarios in our mind, these expectations that aren't being met. So that's one thing to watch out for. The second thing is self-centeredness, like I'm the most important person in the world. Strong habit probably for most of us. And it's embarrassing to admit that my happiness, my problems, my suffering looms so big when anxiety is working in the mind. So again, 8 billion people on the planet, we're oblivious to all the problems that they're encountering and what they're up against. For example, my Monday was too full for me to execute it well and still look calm, cool, and collected. That was a national emergency. So in this talk, Venerable told many funny stories, and she used her expert acting skills to bring the points across. And it was lovely to see this doctor really be taken by the validity of what you were saying. And then at the end of the interview, she was asked how a spiritual path can help mitigate anxiety. And so, generally, to begin with, Venerable listed several good practices. The fact that all religions try to help us to broaden our vision, to think about others, to see something as more important than the happiness of just this one life alone. But then she also described about working with our self-centeredness, as we know very well, to really understand the disadvantages of self-centeredness. And we might have the list in our mind, but how do we actually bring these into ourselves, integrate them so that they're at the fingertip when we need them? Also thinking about the advantages of cherishing others. All of us have had experiences where our hearts have been open when we've really been able to cherish others. It's so satisfying, so rewarding in itself, in addition to getting us beyond our own nose. And then we can stop trying to get everyone to fit our expectations. And then instead of focusing just on ourselves, Venerable suggested that we could do meditations like loving kindness and developing compassion. And so luckily I just had the luxury to do 4 days of retreat on focusing primarily on loving kindness, which I found so helpful and so soothing to the anxious mind in general. We might feel overqualified to do loving kindness meditation, to really take time to think about, may I be safe? May I feel safe? May I have happiness. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. And then to extend that to maybe a benefactor, someone who's been very kind to us, a dear friend, a stranger, and an enemy. You know, maybe we feel like that's boring or something, but what's so beautiful is that when we do take time to really settle into, first of all, breathing meditation, just to slow down what's happening in the mind, which is in itself a kind of loving kindness, isn't it? And then really focus on cultivating this positive state of mind, then as I was mentioning to Cherry, this is something that can help us to overcome maybe a sense of personal distress in face of what's happening in the world, that we are able to do something. We shouldn't underestimate the power of our love and being able to extend that to others. I'm reminded of how protective loving kindness meditation can be. I mean, of course, we can't pin down a direct cause and effect relationship, but a couple of years ago, our friends at Abbey Monastery were threatened with fire. And the firefighters were so amazed that the fire would come right up to the edge of the property and then seem to turn away and go back. You know, one of the 11 advantages of loving kindness meditation that the Buddha described is that it protects us from things like poison and fire and weapons. So, hey, I bet it works with floods too. So if you have anxiety, as most of us do from time to time, I really encourage you to look for that talk, the interview that was in the July newsletter, and also during the Medicine Buddha retreat, July 7. I don't remember if it was the morning or afternoon, but Venerable gave a very good synopsis of working with anxiety. And there are lots of good resources if you want to really delve into loving kindness. This beautiful book, volume 5, is it? Of the series of the Library of Wisdom and Compassion. Venerable Kadro has written a beautiful book on the Four Immeasurables, which we used last year when we were looking at that topic. And also a beautiful book by Sharon Salzberg called Loving Kindness, The Revolutionary Art of Happiness. There's so many resources out there. And the Four Immeasurables are good medicine for us, whether we're anxious or not. Thank you.